There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come with screaming, no betrayal text, no lipstick on the collar, no smoking gun, just silence. That's what hit me the hardest. Not what he said, but everything he didn't. The late replies, the plans that got pushed, the energy that vanished without warning. It was like loving a ghost, someone who used to be there, and now wasn't. And still, I stayed, hoping, waiting, blaming myself. My name is Lena. I'm 31, and for the past year I thought I was building something real with the man I loved. He said we were growing slow and steady. He said the timing was right. I met him through friends, we clicked instantly, and I let myself believe I was finally safe. Turns out, I was never the only one, but I wouldn't learn that part until much, much later. Let's just call him Eli. Even now, I can't bring myself to say his real name. Eli was the quiet type, the kind of man who looked you in the eye when he spoke and made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He didn't overshare. He wasn't clingy. He had this steady calm that I mistook for emotional maturity. He said he worked in architecture. Project deadlines, site visits, last-minute client calls, always juggling something. I found it impressive at first. That drive, that ambition. I thought, this is what a grown man looks like. Focused, busy, driven. But then busy started to mean something else. At first it was small. He'd miss a text, take a few hours to call back, say he was in meetings all day. Okay, fair enough. Then it became whole weekends without seeing each other. He'd say things like, "This project's eating me alive. I don't even have time to breathe, let alone be a good boyfriend. Just hold on a little longer. Once this deadline passes, it'll be better." And I believed him, because the way he said it didn't sound like an excuse. It sounded like pain, like someone under pressure doing their best. So I adjusted, stopped expecting regular dates, stopped calling too much, stopped asking why his busy season never ended. And I told myself that was love, being patient, being chill, being low maintenance. But really, it was the start of my erasure. We used to spend entire weekends wrapped around each other, watching dumb movies, cooking breakfast at noon, laughing about nothing. Now I was lucky to get a Friday night text. He stopped inviting me over, said his place was a mess, said he was never home anyway. Every time I offered to come help, he shut it down. "Not tonight. I'll come to you instead. Let's just go out. I need a break from the house." There were no photos of us on his social media, no mentions of me to coworkers, no casual, my girlfriend and I in conversation. It was like he wanted me close, but invisible. And I just let him. Because when someone you love starts pulling away, your instinct isn't to run. It's to reach, to give more, be better, stay quiet. So I did. I showed up with food, left cute notes, said, "I'm proud of you" when he looked tired, and every time he pushed me away, I told myself, he's just overwhelmed. He's trying his best. Real love is hard sometimes, but somewhere deep in my gut, beneath the optimism, beneath the loyalty, there was a voice whispering, "This doesn't feel right. This isn't what love should feel like." Because love isn't supposed to make you feel like a burden. It isn't supposed to feel like you're begging for crumbs from someone who used to give you the whole cake. I told myself it was just a phase. But the truth? It was a pattern, one that would shatter everything I thought I knew. At first, I believed everything he said, because the lies were dressed up as stress, deadlines, clients, project launches, the kind of pressure that sounded noble, like he was suffering for a better future. Eli would come over late, looking exhausted, collapse onto the couch, and let out a sigh like he was carrying the weight of the world. "I'm barely sleeping. I just need to get through this month. It's not you, it's just everything else." And I nodded. Every time. Like a good partner. Because that's what I thought love was. Being understanding, being flexible, being soft. But soon, even asking simple questions started to feel like crossing a line. "Hey, can we talk later? I'm drained right now. Can we not do this? Honestly, you bringing this up tonight, it's not helpful." The first time he snapped at me, it was over dinner. I'd made his favorite, slow-cooked short ribs, mashed potatoes, wine he liked, and he barely touched the plate, stared at his phone, said he was on edge because of a client call. So I asked gently, "Is everything okay? You've seemed distant lately." He looked up, tired and irritated. "Why do you always go there?" "You really think this is about you? I'm drowning at work, and now I've got to manage your insecurity too?" That hit like a slap I never saw coming. I apologized. I told him I didn't mean to make it worse, that I just wanted to be there for him, that I understood he was under pressure. I started pulling back after that. Careful with my words, careful with my tone. I didn't want to seem needy or clingy. I told myself real love means giving space, even if that space starts to feel like a wall. When my best friend Jess asked how we were doing, I lied, said we were just both busy, that things were fine, that he just needed time to breathe. She raised an eyebrow. "You sure that's all it is? He barely posts. He doesn't bring you around." But I defended him, said his job was intense, said architecture was like that, said he didn't have the bandwidth to juggle work and social obligations. And maybe I said it so many times, I started to believe it. I even told myself he was lucky to have me, because I was low maintenance, because I didn't make demands, because I got it. So I started doing more. I'd send him food to his office, leave notes in his bag, buy his favorite snacks, offer to give him space when he seemed stressed, hoping that by being easy to love, he'd remember to actually love me. But the more I gave, the less I got. He stopped saying, "I miss you," stopped touching me when we were together, stopped calling me babe or even hugging me hello. It was like I was there, but not wanted. And instead of confronting that, I blamed myself harder. He's not emotionally distant. I'm just oversensitive. He's not cold. He's just focused. He's not pulling away. I'm pulling too hard. I walked on eggshells, timed my texts carefully, waited to see if he'd call me first before reaching out. If he didn't respond for hours, I'd send a light, "Hope your day's going okay," instead of asking where he was. I was starving for affection, but I convinced myself that being low pressure would make him come back. Instead, it made me disappear. Jess called me out one night. "You don't sound like you anymore. Since when are you afraid to ask for what you need? This guy's got you shrinking. That's not love, Lena. That's survival." I laughed it off, told her she didn't get it, told her he'd open up once the project wrapped, told her she was being dramatic. But later that night, I cried quietly in the shower, because deep down, I knew she was right. I just wasn't ready to face what that meant. So instead, I looked in the mirror and said something that still haunts me now. Maybe I just need to stop being so needy. When you're in it, you don't see the signs as warnings. You see them as quirks, inconveniences, something you can explain away if you just love harder, wait longer, or give more benefit of the doubt. That's what I did. Looking back now, it's so clear. But at the time, I was committed to misunderstanding the truth. Let's start with his flat. I'd only been there twice in over 6 months. Once early on, he cooked me dinner, had candles lit, music playing. It felt intimate, like he was opening up. The second time was rushed. He picked me up, we stopped by so he could grab a file, and then left immediately. I remember asking if I could use the bathroom and him hesitating, like I'd asked for access to a crime scene. Eventually, he let me, but he hovered, didn't even sit down. I thought it was just awkwardness, or that maybe he was just self-conscious about the mess. After that, I'd ask casually to come over again, and it was always a no. It's a disaster. My flatmates got people over. It's not a good night. Let me sort a few things out first. The excuses stacked up so high, I stopped asking. But now, I realize the only reason someone guards their space that tightly is because they're hiding something inside it. Then there was that phone call. We were out getting coffee on a Saturday morning. The weather was perfect. I remember because we were talking about taking a walk through the park. His phone rang, he looked at the screen and instantly went pale. "I've got to take this. One sec." He stepped away, not just a few feet, but out of earshot, walked across the street and stood behind a parked van. 10 minutes passed. When he came back, his mood had shifted completely. Agitated, unfocused, no more walk, said he had to go. I asked if everything was okay. Just a work thing. It's nothing. He kissed my cheek, barely, and left. That was 3 months in. I should have asked more, pressed harder, but something about the way he looked at me, sharp, dismissive, cold, made me freeze. Like if I questioned him too much, I'd lose him. I'd never met his coworkers. Not one. Never seen the inside of his office. Never met a single friend, family member, or sibling. No birthdays, no work events, no holidays. And when I brought it up, I keep my work life separate. My family's complicated. I don't need validation from anyone else. He spun everything like it was a strength, like privacy made him more trustworthy. Not less. Then there was social media. He barely posted. Fine. But when I tagged him, he'd untag himself. Said he didn't want clients poking around his personal life. I nodded, pretending that made sense, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did, because being kept a secret starts small, and then eats away at you, one excuse at a time. The breaking point came when I found the toothbrush. We were at my place. He'd showered and changed for a dinner reservation. He tossed his overnight bag onto the bed. The zipper was half open. And sitting right on top, next to his cologne and razor, was a second toothbrush. Not new. Used. Different from the one he kept at my place. I picked it up. "Why do you have two?" He blinked, caught off guard for once, then recovered instantly. "Oh, that? I just keep a spare for travel. I hate buying new ones all the time." I nodded. But something inside me recoiled. It wasn't the toothbrush. It was how fast the lie came. Too clean. Too ready. I let it go. Didn't bring it up again. Told myself it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was instinct. It was my gut raising its hand, saying, "Pay attention." And I ignored it. Because the second you admit something's wrong, you have to admit everything could fall apart. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I didn't know it at the time, but that toothbrush was my first warning. And I buried it, just like all the rest. The silence became a second voice in my head, always there, always whispering. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe you're expecting too much. Maybe this is what love looks like when life gets hard. But the silence wasn't neutral. It was weaponized. And I turned it inward. I started overthinking everything. How long to wait before texting him back? Whether a thinking of you message would come off as desperate, if I should act cheerful when he finally called, or play it cool. There was no winning formula, just constant mental math. What version of me will make him stay? I stopped asking where he was. It used to be easy. "How was your night?" "You good?" "What time are you coming over?" Now I avoided those questions like landmines, because every time I asked, he'd tense up. His face would tighten, eyes go flat. "Why are you always checking up on me?" "It's exhausting, Lena. You say you trust me, but you act like you don't." So I stopped. Told myself I did trust him, even when I didn't. I told myself I was being mature, giving him space, being the kind of girlfriend who wasn't too much. But I was unraveling. Sleep got weird. I'd stay up until 2 a.m. refreshing his Instagram stories, even though he never posted. Scroll through his LinkedIn to see if he'd been active. Reread old messages to remind myself that once he did care. Sometimes I'd dream that he was holding me again, laughing, cooking dinner in my kitchen. Then I'd wake up to an empty phone screen and a lump in my throat. He barely touched me anymore. When we were together, he'd sit across the room, scrolling through emails. No spontaneous kisses, no hand on my thigh, no, "God, I missed you." When I reached for him, he'd flinch like affection was a burden. "I'm just exhausted." "It's not you, I promise. Can we just chill without all the touching?" I nodded. Said okay. Told myself maybe I was being clingy. Maybe he was just stressed and didn't want to be sexual all the time, but my body knew better. It remembered what intimacy used to feel like. And this was vacancy. Still, I didn't give up. I started researching like it was my job. Googled How to fix emotional distance in a relationship. Signs of burnout in men. How to support a partner going through stress. Is physical withdrawal normal in long-term couples? My search history became a graveyard of unanswered questions. I watched YouTube therapists explain how love languages can shift under pressure. Listened to podcasts about holding space for someone who's emotionally unavailable. Took notes, tried new strategies, backed off when he seemed overwhelmed, leaned in when he looked sad. I thought if I could just crack the code, I could bring him back. But the truth was simpler and crueler. There was no version of me that would have been enough for him, because he wasn't distant out of stress. He was distant because his heart wasn't here anymore. I just didn't know that yet. All I knew was I felt like I was losing him. So I made a decision, one that would keep me stuck for far too long. I just need to support him harder. He'll come back when things settle down. Real love means sticking it out, even when it's hard. And with that thought, I signed myself up for more silence, more guessing, more shrinking, more bleeding just to keep something alive that was already dead. Suspicion doesn't hit like a lightning bolt. It creeps in, quiet, slow, like a leak you pretend isn't flooding the entire foundation. That's how it started. It was a Tuesday. He said he had to work late. No explanation, no warmth, just a flat text at 6:13 p.m. Running late tonight? Don't wait up. And I almost didn't question it. Almost just let it go. Almost numbed myself out with takeout and bad TV like I had every other night he blew me off. But something in me snapped. Not a scream, more like a whisper I couldn't unhear anymore. I needed to know. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I didn't trust what I was becoming in this relationship. So I got in my car, not to spy, not to play detective, just to see, to finally confirm what my gut had been screaming for weeks. He had told me he was meeting a client at an office downtown, but I knew his route. I knew his habits. I knew the difference between truth and convenience. I stayed 2 cars behind. No headlights, no radio. My heart was pounding the way it does when you already know what you're about to find, and you're just praying to be wrong. He didn't go downtown. He took a left, then another, then onto a quiet residential street lined with trees and townhouses. No office buildings, no construction sites, no meeting rooms. He slowed at a corner house, white with red trim, a tiny picket fence, and a porch light already on. That's when I saw it. He pulled into the driveway, and before he could even get out of the car, a woman opened the front door. She smiled. Casual, familiar, and a small child, maybe 3 or 4, ran out, straight into his arms. Eli bent down, scooped up the kid like he'd done it 100 times. And then he kissed her. The woman. Not politely, not like a distant co-parent, but like a man coming home. My stomach flipped. The world shifted. Time slowed. I stayed frozen in my car, parked half a block away, eyes locked on the scene like I was watching someone else's life. But it wasn't someone else's. It was mine, being rewritten in real time. I watched him carry the child inside. The woman followed, hand resting on his back. The porch light clicked off, and I sat there, unable to breathe. Eventually, I pulled forward just far enough to see through the living room window. There were toys on the floor, photos on the wall, dinner on the table, shoes at the door. His shoes, the ones I'd bought him last Christmas. I took a picture, then another, and another. Not out of revenge, not out of rage, out of need. Because in that moment, I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind, that this was real, that I hadn't imagined the distance, that I wasn't crazy. I was being lied to. I drove home in silence, didn't cry, didn't scream, just stared at the road like it owed me something. The next morning, I texted him, "We need to talk. Come over. Now." He showed up 40 minutes later. Same blank expression, same forced calm. "What's wrong?" I didn't speak, just handed him my phone. The screen lit up with the photo, him on the porch, holding the child, smiling like nothing in the world was broken. His face dropped. For once, no smooth excuse, no quick spin. He just stood there, Caught. I asked one question. How long? He looked away, hands in his pockets, eyes on the floor. It's complicated. Try me. Silence. We've been living together. My stomach turned, but I didn't flinch. I needed the full truth. And the kid? He nodded. Didn't even say the words. Just nodded. You have a child and a partner. Yet you've been with me. He shook his head, like that changed anything. It wasn't what it looked like. We'd broken up. I didn't know how to let it go. And then you came along, and I didn't expect to fall for you. That part, that's what broke me, because it was said like a compliment, like I should feel grateful that I was the mistake he loved. I stood there, arms crossed, every muscle in my body trying not to collapse. You let me doubt myself. You let me think I was the problem. He didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. Just the quiet, gaping space between who I thought he was and who he'd just revealed himself to be. I didn't scream, didn't throw things, didn't break down into some dramatic mess like the movies say you should. I just went still, cold, flat, done. He stood there, still trying to spin the situation, acting like some lost, complicated man caught between two lives. And I just looked at him like he was a stranger in my kitchen, because that's exactly what he was. Get out. He blinked. Lena, please, can we just... I said, get the fuck out. There was no shaking in my voice, no crack, no room for confusion, just finality. He hesitated, looked like he might try to speak again, then thought better of it. He left. No slamming door, no last word, just the sound of his footsteps, retreating. And when the door clicked shut, the silence he left behind wasn't peaceful. It was obliterating. I sat on the floor, back against the fridge, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. I didn't cry right away, didn't have the capacity. It was like my body was buffering. Like my brain couldn't process the size of what had just happened. He'd been living a whole other life, with another woman and a child, while telling me he was just busy at work, while letting me doubt my sanity, question my worth, spiral into silence just to keep the peace. That kind of betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it splits your reality. The calls, the missed dates, the toothbrush, all of it. It wasn't just the lie, it was how easily he told it. I called Jess the next morning, barely got the words out before the tears started pouring. Jess didn't ask questions, just listened, said all the right things. He's a monster. You did nothing wrong. You were too good for him from day one. But the next friend I told, Mel, wasn't so clear. Wait, he has a kid? Maybe he didn't know how to tell you. Are you sure it was serious with the other woman? I mean, men panic. Maybe he was just confused. That one stung more than I expected, because the last thing I needed was a maybe. A crack in the wall I was trying to build between me and the madness. I started turning inward, stopped answering texts, left the group chat, turned off notifications. I wasn't ready to be comforted, because comfort felt like someone putting their arm around a burning building. I didn't want soft words or ice cream or healing playlists. I wanted clarity. I needed to go back through everything and tear it apart. Every memory, every date, every message. I needed to dissect it, to see where the lie started, to figure out if any of it was real. I scrolled back through photos of us smiling, his hand on my waist, captions like, "Can't believe how lucky I am." It made me sick, because behind every post was a truth I hadn't seen, a gap, a shadow, a missing piece. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I thought about the nights I'd cooked for him while he texted someone else, about the mornings I'd kissed him goodbye while he prepared to play house and happy families with another woman, about the way he made me feel crazy for wanting closeness, while he was giving that same closeness to someone else entirely. The grief wasn't just about losing him, it was about losing myself. Because the woman I'd been before, hopeful, trusting, warm, was gone. And in my place, someone hollow, guarded, and furious. How do you trust again after that? How do you love again when you realize your gut was screaming and you muted it because he told you to? I looked in the mirror one night and didn't recognize the person staring back. Same eyes, same skin, same clothes, but everything inside, different. The way I stood, the way I wore my silence, like someone who'd seen the worst and lived through it, but would never be the same again. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. You don't just lose the relationship, you lose your reflection, because everything you thought was real wasn't, and everything you trusted becomes suspect. He didn't just walk out of my life, he burned the bridge on the way out. And when the smoke cleared, I was standing there, alone, holding the ashes of who I used to be. I didn't just lose him, I whispered one night, alone in bed staring at the ceiling. I lost the version of myself who believed in him. I stopped eating, not on purpose, not as a statement. My body just shut down. Food lost taste. Sleep became foreign. Everything felt like noise. Too loud, too sharp, too pointless. The world kept moving, but I didn't. I spent 3 days in the same hoodie. Hair unwashed, curtains drawn, lying in bed, replaying the last 6 months like a horror movie on loop, trying to find the frame where it all went wrong, trying to catch the moment. When love turned into performance, I sobbed, loud, gut-wrenching, breathless, sobs. The kind that leave you gasping like grief is trying to kill you from the inside. I cried until there was nothing left. Then I just lay there, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, like it might offer me answers. None came. And then, somewhere in that stillness, something shifted. Not a big, bold epiphany, not a boss bitch movie montage, just quiet. Like my mind had stopped fighting reality long enough to feel done. There was no more begging, no more bargaining, no more, maybe if I had just... I sat up. My room looked like a crime scene. Old takeout boxes, unread texts, his sweatshirt on the chair, his cologne on the dresser. I picked up my phone, opened his contact, stared at his name for a full minute, then hit delete. Not blocked, not archived, just erased. He no longer existed in my phone. Then I opened my notes app and started typing, not to send, not to share, just to say it. You didn't just lie to me, you made me lie to myself. You made me doubt what I felt, silence what I needed, and question what I deserved. You made me smaller, and I allowed you to do all that. But I won't ever let someone do that again. I stared at the screen, then locked the phone. Didn't delete the note. Didn't save it to favorites. Just let it sit there. Like a scar I didn't want to hide. I turned to the shelf next, pulled down our framed photo from New Year's, his arm around my waist, both of us smiling. I stared at it for a second. Then, without drama, I opened the back, took it out, ripped it in half. One clean tear, right through the middle. I tossed his half in the bin, put mine in a drawer. Not because I was holding on, but because that version of me deserved to be remembered, even if I'd been lied to. Then came the deep clean. I stripped the bed, washed the sheets, took his toothbrush, his hoodie, the body wash he liked, everything that had his fingerprints on it, and dumped it in a black trash bag. I didn't cry while doing it. I didn't smile either. I just moved like someone scrubbing a fire out of their own chest. That night, I bought new bedsheets online. Not expensive, not fancy, but mine. Clean, untouched, unshared. I rearranged my room, moved the lamp to the other side, put on music I hadn't listened to in weeks, opened my windows, let fresh air in, and when I finally sat back on my bed, alone, in silence, something felt different. Not better, but possible. For the first time since it happened, I could breathe without feeling like my lungs belonged to someone else. I didn't tell anyone about the shift, didn't post about it, didn't update my followers with a caption like, "Healing looks good on me." This wasn't about proving anything. This was about starting again. Tiny private steps. Invisible to the world, but massive to me. I still wasn't okay. I still flinched when my phone buzzed. Still had nights where I woke up in a sweat, heart racing from dreams that looked too much like memories. Still had moments where I questioned everything. But I was no longer pretending, no longer performing stability just to make everyone else comfortable. I was broken, but not shattered. I wasn't healed, I said quietly one night, sitting under clean sheets, sipping tea like it was medicine. But I was no longer willing to stay crushed for him, or by him. Some betrayals don't come with closure, no apology, no explanation that makes it make sense. But sometimes clarity is enough. And that's what I found, bit by bit, after he left. In the weeks that followed, I unraveled everything. The lies, the silence, the guilt he planted in my chest like it was mine to carry. I realized the biggest red flag wasn't the missed calls, or the excuses, or even the toothbrush in his bag. It was how he made me feel crazy, just for asking questions. That should have been the moment I walked, because love doesn't punish curiosity. It doesn't weaponize your own instincts against you. But I didn't know that then. I do now. Healing wasn't instant. It wasn't linear. It wasn't some glorious rebirth where I burned all the memories and came out stronger the next day. It was boring, slow, lonely. I journaled. I went on walks with my phone on airplane mode. I stopped checking his socials, stopped wondering if he missed me, stopped turning our relationship into a puzzle I could solve if I just stared long enough. Eventually, I stopped asking why he did it, because the answer didn't matter. What mattered was why I let it go on for so long. I had to forgive myself for that, for staying silent when I knew something was off, for shrinking myself to keep him comfortable, for turning my back on my own gut. That's what hurt the most. Not that he fooled me, but that I overrode my own alarm bells to stay in something that was already on fire. But I didn't stay there. Eventually, I started saying no, more. Not out of bitterness, but because I finally knew the value of my energy. I built boundaries like brick walls, quietly, without apology. If someone went days without texting back, they stayed gone. If someone made me feel small for needing clarity or consistency, that was the end of the conversation. I didn't date for a long time, and when I did, it wasn't to fall in love. It was to reconnect with myself, to prove I could meet new people without compromising who I was. No masks, no pretending to be cooler or quieter or less emotional, just me. And then, months later, I got a message from her, the other woman. Her name was Ava. I'd never heard it before, never seen her face outside that porch light snapshot burned into my memory. The message was short. "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I think we have something in common. I found your number on an old group message he never deleted. I just wanted to say, I didn't know. He told me you were his crazy ex, that you wouldn't leave him alone, that you were obsessed." I just stared at the screen. And then I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was textbook. Of course, that's what he said. Of course, he rewrote the script, flipped the narrative, made me the problem, so he didn't have to admit what he was really doing. Ava and I talked on the phone that night. Turns out she didn't know about me either. He had told her I was an old fling, someone from his past who didn't know how to let go. She believed him, just like I had believed him, until one night he disappeared on her too. Same script, different scene. She left him not long after. And suddenly, the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about her. It was about control. He kept us separate, kept us confused, kept us silent by feeding us just enough truth to keep us compliant. We were never the one. We were placeholders, until his lies caught up with him, and when they did, he fell hard and alone. There was no revenge, no dramatic confrontation, just two women, once strangers, now on the other side of the same storm. Both of us free, both of us healing, both of us finally saying out loud what we wished we'd known sooner. If someone hides you, they're not protecting the relationship. They're protecting a lie. And I refuse to be hidden ever again.